Hey guys, it's a brand new Bertcast, and I look like shit. I am in one of the most beautiful places in the world. I'll show you right now. See that? We're in Loveland, Colorado. We've made a tour stop. We had the day off yesterday, so we went wake surfing with my buddy Sean Hauser. Sean used to work on Trip Flip with me, and we were coming. We have 2 shows at Fort Collins tonight. This tour has been insane. It's been really insane. But we have 2 shows in Fort Collins tonight. Sean said, my parents live right outside Fort Collins. Why don't you come hang out at their house and go use their boat? So that's what we did all day yesterday. You'll see video. You've been following my stories. You know what I'm doing. My voice is shot, legit shot. It's not even shot like hoarse. It's just like I've got no power behind it. Dave Williamson just took a dump. Anyway, we're about to wrap up here, and it's my podcast. We're going to wrap up here, head over to the venue, hopefully get some sort of a workout in. I have not worked out at all. I'm not being healthy at all. I'm drinking so much Kool-Aid. It's crazy.
Yeah, I saw your massive piles of McDonald's.
Yeah, we've gotten out of control a couple nights. We bought $140 worth of McDonald's, which was a great decision at the time. But man, I've been paying for it with my stomach. Bad. And then we bought a bunch of candy bars, and we did a candy bar draft. By the way, which went viral. They started trashing Milk Duds because I said I'd never buy Milk Duds. Look, I'd never buy Milk Duds because when I was a kid, my mom wouldn't let me eat them because they'd pop off my retainers or whatever. They get stuck in your teeth, pop off a cap. So I apologize to Milk Duds. I got to make it up to them. But yeah, it's been great. Today's podcast is awesome. We'll be posting. I am like stuttering and tired. I couldn't sleep last night because the AC on the bus was going. We didn't have enough juice on the bus to pump the AC hardcore the whole time. So I was sweating last night. But yeah, it's been a great tour. 0 contact. We've had 0 contact with anyone. So we are pulling into LA in a couple days, healthy, other than just beat to hell. No one's showing any symptoms. I know the world is spiking, and once again, we are weaving our way through the country, threading the needle through this freaking COVID shit. And if it looks like we're going back into lockdown, we'll just keep doing podcasts, everybody. That's it. Today's podcast is a great one. It was one I did not expect to do. I don't know how it got set up. But it was a great podcast. These 2 are look, they're both amazing personalities. Obviously, Joe Buck is an amazing announcer, commentator. You put a mic in front of Joe Buck, and he's just great. Oliver Hudson is someone I did not know a lot about. Obviously, everyone knows somewhat about him and his family, but I didn't know a lot about. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, I just wanted to have a conversation about, I think we talked about dads because both of them have famous dads. And so it's a great conversation. I think you're going to really like it. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I would say that they were surprised at how I really did a great job hosting this podcast. I really did. This is like, if I'm going to get a potty forever, any podcast, it's going to be this one. All right. So enjoy today's episode. We've got some mid-rolls in the middle of the podcast that you'll hear. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. New 2 Bears, 1 Caves out with me and Tom and Kool-Aid. New Bill Bert is out with an expert that explains Bitcoin to us. So check those out where you get your podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, host of their own podcast, Daddy Issues, Oliver Hudson and Joe Buck. He's the man, the myth, the legend. Your podcast is, especially like in quarantine, sounds fantastic.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear because we don't know what the hell we're doing. In fact, a lot of the times
Joe, I am so fucking well aware of that. Can I tell you, my number one note to you guys just invited so much shit in your fucking lives. Like this is, no, I'm literally listening to your podcast going, you guys have fantastic fucking careers. Why would you invite all this bullshit in your life? The first thing I noticed, Oliver posts on his Instagram, new podcast with Joe Buck. And the next day he's like, listen, guys, I don't want to give a fuck. Don't start talking shit about my friend. Listen, he's a good guy. And all of a sudden I'm like, guys, I'm like,
I knew that was going to happen. I mean, I knew that was going to happen. I was going to post some shit about Joe. He's very polarizing because everyone thinks that.
Why? Why is he fucking polarizing?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I had to explain myself, explain who Joe Buck is. You know, I mean, I don't understand it myself. He has theories.
I just think I've done, when you do 22 World Series in the last 20 straight and all of them during the social media age, I think my dad got it, Vince Scully got it. You always get accused of rooting for the other side because baseball fans all year hear their hometown announcers pulling a groin when they call a home run for their own team and getting sad when somebody else hits a home run against them. And I have to be excited for both. And so then people just think that I'm rooting against their team, which I'm not. But I don't know. I don't feel like I'm polarizing. I don't give a shit anymore.
You are polarizing.
The answer to your question is we're doing this because Oliver needs money. That's why we're doing this.
It's true. It's true. He's still getting paid by Fox. I'm not. You know what I mean? Like I have a pilot I was supposed to do 3 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting. That's on hold. I've got no income. I'm using Joe. He's my thoroughbred. I'm just going to sit on him like a jockey and ride him to the fucking finish line.
Right.
Well, it's such a great title for a podcast because at first, lately I've been talking about my dad a lot, and you don't realize, and especially when you're white, I don't think this sounds crazy to say, but a lot of times you don't realize what issues you're brought up with, whether they're hints of privilege that you never recognize until you say something out loud on social media, or just how much your father leaves a print on you, like that you can't shake. I was thinking the other day, my wife and her mom don't speak, and I thought I've only met her once, or her mom, obviously, and I thought I wish I had gotten to know her mom so that when my wife was doing things, I could go, "You're acting like your mom right now." But right. It's such a fascinating jumping off point. Whose idea was daddy issues?
Well, I think my daddy issues are probably come from a good spot. I adored my dad. He was a great dad. I don't come out of my time with my father thinking anything, honestly, but good thoughts. But I think it's more in my own head in the small town that I live in St. Louis, which for people of a certain age, they will always look at me as my dad's kid. And if you go, even though I'm 51, I'm not a kid. And if you go on my social media, a lot of the slams are, you're lucky you had a famous dad. That's how you got it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a job. You suck. For Oliver, it's a little bit deeper than that. But we are finding that everybody, good or bad, has daddy issues.
But Bert, you hit on something though when we were talking last. There's a privilege thing, right? That we were up against. Forget white, even just coming from where we came from. So we've had comments too about, oh, what the fuck do you have to cry about? But that's bullshit to me because it doesn't matter where we grow up. We all have our shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And even in this quarantine, I think a lot of people who are famous, who are celebrities, are afraid to express themselves on how they are feeling because there's a fear, of all that. But just because you have money or you have fame doesn't mean that you can't be feeling shit in this time. And so, with the daddy issues thing, I grew up extremely privileged, right? I was a lucky man. But at the same time, my dad bailed when I was 6 years old. I had a stepdad who came into my life who raised me, who's an amazing man, but still it's not my real father. My mom was working her ass off. I had my stuff that informed sort of who I am as a man, and I had to deal with that shit. I still deal with that shit every day, So
do you guys ever feel like you can't talk shit about your dads because we know who they are and we have our own relationships with your dads? Like, I know your dads, like I know them very well and I've shared time with them on the screen or listening. Do you feel like you can't like really get to like say some shit because I can talk shit about my dad all day long. No one fucking knows him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly,
that is a good question.
I've never been asked that. And I think if I do have any of that frustration with regard to my dad, I think I wrote a book, and the book was called Lucky Bastard. And I am that. I was a lucky bastard. I came along at a time when my dad was married with 6 kids. He had met my mom. They had, whatever they had. I came into the world. They were married. And then my sister came along. So it opened a lot of old wounds. But as a little kid, I remember going to, and Ali and I have never talked about this on our own podcast. So good for you, Bert, getting stuff out of me that my co-host can't. I remember as a little kid going with my dad to my half brothers and sisters' house to drop off an alimony check every whatever it was month. And I don't know why I was there. If I was defense for him, if it was more, we could kind of get in there and get out. But I remember seeing these 6 other kids who didn't like me because of what I represented. I represented the end of their parents' relationship because I was brought into the world. And it was an odd, awful feeling because I didn't get it. And one of the main reasons why I wrote the book and then I came back around was to say to them in a roundabout way, now that I'm, at the time, a mid-40s guy, I've been divorced, I have 2 daughters, I'm remarried, now I've got kids on the way, now they're 2 years old. I get it. Back then I didn't get it, but they had every reason to be upset and pissed that I was walking into their house because of what I represented. And it was really nothing more than that. It was almost like hey, I don't know how Dad handled this, but I know that I handled my own situation a lot better than he did. And I understand now why I got those looks, because it's just an awful situation for those 6 kids going, what the fuck just happened to my life? My dad's gone. Now he's got a new young wife and he's got a kid, and that also coincided. And then I'll shut up.
Imagine how they feel about you now, though, because you're so successful and make all this money and you're famous.
It's gotten better, but I'm not close with them. My dad died in 2002. I haven't really talked to really any of the 6 except for one, maybe a couple times. And my sister and I always yearned to have this great relationship with these brothers and sisters that we never had. And I understand it now a lot better is my point in all that. But I can't go into all that on a daily basis because, like you said, people know my dad. And in the town I live in, he walks on water and is revered. He's got his face on the outfield wall, and there's a statue of him outside Busch Stadium. I'm not going to take swipes, and he doesn't deserve that from me.
Yeah, but it's got to feel like you got to not bite your tongue, but like but like at times be like people like I don't know the right way to say it, but like I feel like I get to dictate my dad's narrative. Mm-hmm. So whatever I say about my dad being difficult, or even if I decide to share a story, I can punch it up, and my dad's got no fucking recourse.
Well, no, I know I'm in a different situation in that, like, my real dad, my Bill Hudson.
By the way, and I have to say, I apologize, cut you off.
Yeah, no.
I actually, and I know you have a kind of a strained relationship with your real dad. I actually was thinking about it today, and I know I shouldn't, but I feel bad for him because I go, people write a narrative about him without even knowing him.
Mm-hmm. No, dude. So, I mean, I can get so deep into all this, but yes, no, I have a lot of compassion for him and pure forgiveness for him too, just based on his upbringing and his dad leaving when he was 5 years old in the middle of the night, and so he had no real shot. My dad sort of left and there was a good time and then he bailed, and then I had Kurt. And so I had some tools and I wanted to figure my shit out. Back in the 50s, that was just what it was. He was, I don't know how he could have done better in a way, but our relationship is on the mend right now. Because of a stupid joke I made on Instagram. I said, Happy Abandonment Day with a picture of him and Kate, like, in the better times. And it blew the fuck up. And it actually started a dialogue between the two of us, and things are all right. But as far as talking shit, it's less talking shit. I'm just not afraid to say whatever I feel about my real father. You know what I mean? Like, if he can't handle that, well, that's his problem. You know what I mean? But with Kurt, you know, he's my stepdad, but you're right. I'm not going to say things about Kurt that I want to sort of get off my chest in a public arena. I mean, there's no reason for it because of exactly what you said.
Yeah, I had a girl give me the clap in college, and I would light her up. Especially, I felt really vindictive. Like on podcasts, I just go, "Hey, I got the clap. I got it from this girl," and I'd say her name.
Oh my God!
But it was obviously I had not gotten over it. but
physically or emotionally?
Oh, all of it. It was like the second chick I've ever had sex with, and then it happened, and I was like, and it happened. It was so bad. It was like so bad. And
what is the clap?
Chlamydia.
That is
chlamydia. Yeah. Wow. And so, and then one day I was laying in bed and I went, I bet she has recollections of how I treated her and like how I was that aren't so fond. And everyone's got their own story. And I go, I'm going to stop saying her name.
Oh my God. Just for fear of a lawsuit.
I was like, Jesus, what the fuck is wrong with me? But it's interesting that you probably think, there is so much you can say about Oliver, your biological father, that he really has no leg to stand on. Where he's like, I really fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've talked it out. He has his issues, and I understand where he was coming from as well, though. I mean, not to say that he should have done what he did. He should have stepped up, honestly, and been more of a man. But Kurt comes into my life. My mom and Kurt have this great relationship. We're sort of this nice little family, and he just felt like he couldn't fit into that, basically, and decided to then sort of move away. But the problem is it wasn't just him sort of saying, you know what, I can't deal with it, and then disappeared. By the way, he lived in Malibu, like 25 minutes from me. But the problem is that he went on the offense and was, it was in Vanity Fair and going on Inside Edition and just spouting off all of this shit about my mother that was not true, because I was living it. And that's why it became as bad as it did, honestly, So, but it's good now. I mean, we're texting and we've had some great meetings. We drank 12 beers together the other day and like cried, and it's been cool. I mean, at 43 years old, I'm finding a relationship with my father now, which is nice.
What was it like? And I'm asking, obviously in such a small respect, but I'm recognizable and you could argue famous, but I wonder what it's like from children's perspective. From my daughters, like, what was it like having a famous parent? Like seeing them get recognized and seeing people take ownership of a moment that you were having with them, and then you losing that moment. Both of you had that experience.
I hated it. I mean, I'll go first, but it drove me crazy. Like, I remember as a kid sitting at dinner tables and stuff and people coming up, and just, being disrespectful at some points. But even when they weren't, I just felt anger. I was like, get the fuck away, man. I mean, it was a real visceral sort of feeling for me. So it was interesting. And then, of course, through therapy and all the crazy shit, I think you feel like these people are taking a piece of your parents in a way. They're taking their attention away from you. And there's so much of it going on that it's just, these people just drove me nuts.
See, I've seen both sides of it, and now I understand why Oliver's such a dick when people come up to him at dinners. I grew up, again, mine's on a smaller level. My mom was Goldie Hawn. I wasn't sitting at a table with Kurt Russell. I was there with Jack Buck, who was the voice of sports in St. Louis and did a lot of national stuff. But my example comes from St. Louis. But anywhere we went, he was like the master of ceremonies. Even in a restaurant, when we're all sitting around, the four of us, is my mom, dad, my sister, and me, and he would pull a chair up. It wasn't like, oh, hey, I'll talk to you in a minute. We're having dinner here. It's like, sit up, pull up a chair. Tell me you're from Paducah, Kentucky. I knew a guy named Phil there once. Do you know Phil? And that's how I grew up. But for as annoying as that was as a kid, or I didn't really understand it, I never saw any different from him. It wasn't like he was just having a great day. That's how he was every time. And then I saw when he passed away in 2002, the outpouring of love and the 48 hours on the big radio station here, people just calling in and telling stories about how he touched their lives. And then people actually stopping along the interstate as the funeral procession made its way out to Jefferson Barracks, where he was to be buried, out of a jam-packed church, and people saluting. I've seen both sides of it. So you see all that goes into the category of annoyance, and then you see the outpouring of love, and hopefully for Ollie, that's 30 years from now, but you'll see the other side of it. And it's
yeah. I mean, obviously now
there's a real connection that people have, albeit sometimes misguided, and they really don't know that person, but they've made a dent. And in this world, making a real connection and a dent in somebody's life in a good way is beautiful. As
a kid, though, it's you don't have the cognition to fully understand what is going on. It's like with my kids, Bert. Like, I actually say to them sometimes. I've asked them. I'm saying, do you guys get pissed off? When people come up to me and ask for pictures and stuff, does that make you annoyed or anything like that? Because my parents never asked me that, and I was curious. And they're like, no, they're all good with it.
Yeah, my kids.
So I don't know how your kids handle it. Do they hate it?
They think that I turn it on, that like people recognize me. And then Bill Burr actually told me this one time. He goes, stop matching their energy. We were at a XFL game, and he goes, every time you get recognized, you take it up a level. You go, hey, what's up? And he's like, now all of a sudden it's this fevered pitch. And what was happening is they weren't recognizing Bill at first, because he's very like he just got the hat on, the hoodie on. And they'd match Bill. By the time they'd recognize Bill, it would be like, holy fucking shit, it's Bill Burr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm the same way. I think that comes from being a pleaser. So, and the bad thing is you get worn out pleasing everybody else, and then you get home and you're exhausted, or your wife says something to it and you're like, leave me alone, or I heard you, or whatever. It's like, why are you nicer? This is my inner dialogue. Why am I nicer to, the guy that comes up and goes, hey, why do you hate the Packers? Ha, ha, ha. And then we start talking about the Packers, and I'm matching the same intensity.
Why do you hate the Packers?
Why would I hate the Packers? I don't hate the fucking Packers. I don't hate any team.
You do hate the Packers.
I do not. Why?
I just want to get that shit going to like make it even worse.
Oh, it just drives me crazy. It's like, of all the teams, that's the one I don't really get. But yeah, I'm the same way, Bert. I mean, I somebody comes up and I want them to walk away going, that's the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. And it's probably not the right way to go about
it. Isn't that the fucking truth?
Yeah. I don't know why I'm like that, but and maybe it comes from, I've done plenty of my own therapy. It comes from walking in that house with my dad for that alimony check and going, I want these other kids to like me, but they hate me. And I couldn't get them over to my side. And so maybe I've been.
Well, you also, you also as a kid, you want kids to like you for yourself, for you, not for your parents.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me growing up, was sort of, and by the way, you get sharp, so you become keen to sort of who is liking you for you and who sort of just wants to meet your parents, and that stays with you forever and ever. But
you're also aware.
You can learn to use it to your advantage too.
That's a good word though. Sharp. You start getting like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, like looking around the room going, okay, we got a bogey coming in from to 11 o'clock on mom and dad. And you're just waiting for it to happen. And now in the age of social media, you become almost paranoid to even be loud in a bar or whatever it is, because somebody, if somebody's videoing it or, about to recount their horrible experience with Joe, Oliver, or Bert in a local Shoney's.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I think I've turned into a little bit of a, I don't know. It's, how you are when you have a mic on and you're consistently aware that everyone's listening. Mm-hmm. I had a mic on so much at one point in my life for like 9 years, almost every day, beginning of the day till the end of the day, that I got very aware of that someone could be videotaping me or listening to me. And now I would argue that I'm maybe not. I'll never turn into a Karen, like the lose my shit outside a Ralph's, but just because I'm hyper aware that everyone's videotaping, and so I almost feel like a flaw. If I over tip only because I'm hyper aware that everyone's going to light you up for not tipping these days.
Yeah, no, I know. And this is, again, there are going to be people, I think, to go back to what we first started talking about, because Oliver and I have experienced in the handful of podcasts we've done, we'll go, oh, well, your parents got identified in a restaurant. Oh, well, you got people coming up to you. You think a camera's on you all the time. But that's just I'm not going to be fake about it. That's just the stuff that runs through my head too. And it inhibits the fun that I have. And it inhibits, I think, a whole side of my personality that I could be in public with my wife who loves to have fun, but I shut it down because I'm like, I'm not going to go dance. Why would I go dance? This guy's, if I walk out there, everybody's going to watch me go dance. I suck at dancing. You're good at dancing. I'm not walking out there.
Yeah, but that's your own insecurity, not just about dancing. But I'm saying just generally, you're just, you could let it go much more. I mean, when we do our podcast, when we're editing things, there's certain moments where Joe's like, do we need to keep that in where you talk about going down on your high school girlfriend and getting waterlogged? He's like, that's just.
I just didn't think it was germane to the story.
You are the first podcaster to ever use the word germane.
I don't even think it fits. I don't even think it works.
That was Spades. Spades is the one who came up with that one.
Yeah, exactly. Guilty as charged, Oliver. There's no doubt. And you're right. I could loosen up a little bit more, but I don't know. I feel like I have to protect something, and I don't know what the hell I'm protecting. I don't know why, because I feel like you and I pretty much talk about whatever we want in whatever manner we want. So why would I be protective? It's stupid.
This podcast is brought to you by Hims. If you haven't heard me talking about Hims, then you have not been listening. They are helping guys look their best. And if it's time for you to look your best, did you know that 66% of men start losing their hair by the age of 35? And once you've noticed it's thinning, it can be too late. You got to get in front of that train. That's what I did. If you start moving backwards, do something about it. If you're feeling a bald spot, do something about it. I was 22 years old. No, I think I was 21. God, I might have been younger. I might have been 21 when someone told me I was losing my hair, and I jumped on that train, and I've done something about it. And I don't have the perfect head of hair, but I still have more hair than Tom. Mark my words. For Hims is one-stop shopping for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness, all for men. Write a new chapter in your book of your life and start with you having a full head of hair. Hims is not snake oil pills or gas station over-the-counter supplements. These are prescription solutions backed by science. This company was created by a man who knows that most conversations for men are better to have online than in person. And all you got to do, real quick, they connect you with some online doctors, would save you hours, completely confidential and discreet. Answer a few quick questions. Doctor will review, and if they determine it's right for you, they can prescribe you the medication to treat your hair loss and ship it directly to your door discreetly. Right now, my listeners can get started with their first month for free. Go to forhims.com/Bertcast. That's forhims.com/Bertcast. Remember, prescription requires an online consultation with a medical provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Offer valid only if prescribed. 3-month minimum subscription. Additional restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Remember, that's forhims.com/Bertcast. Ever eat a meal so good you could feel like you could eat it over and over and over again, never getting tired of it? Just eat it every time. That's what Blue Apron's doing this month. This entire menu are recipes customers repeatedly asked to bring back. The ones I love, that my families love. We've looked through this menu. These are our favorite meals. They're the highest rated ones, the ones they say they cook every week. So if you're looking to start a meal service kit now, this is the perfect time to see why people love Blue Apron. Home cooking matters now more than ever. I know that for a fact it goes without saying that everyone's cooking at home. And it gives us peace of mind to know that we have fresh ingredients delivered to us. We don't have to go out to the store. They're sent to us, quality ingredients right to my door, so we can cook delicious, easy to cook comfort meals in our house. Consider Blue Apron your kitchen coach. They teach you new skills, change up your routine, and teaches you to try new things. From dishes designed by health for a healthy lifestyle to those with special ingredients, you're going to love how good cooking can be. Over half of their signature dish menus is stacked with ready-to-go meals designed for balanced eating. Create a plan that works for you with their ever-changing meal options. You busy? Well, guess what? Blue Apron's menu and schedule is flexible. You can schedule, skip, or cancel orders whenever you want. Traveling? You can send your box to your destination or a friend. If you're going to ask me, I've been using Blue Apron, I think now for about 4 years, and it has changed the way my family eats, changed the way my family hangs out together. I'm telling you, you're going to love this. Don't sacrifice flavor. Don't settle for boring meals. With Blue Apron, you can enjoy top-rated recipes all month long. Check out this week's menu and get $30 off across your first 2 deliveries when you visit blueapron.com/Bertcast. That's blueapron.com/Bertcast. Blue Apron, feed your soul. It's funny your name has come up recently, Joe, a number of times in my news feed randomly. And I couldn't. And then today I was like, oh, it's because he has a podcast. Like, it's because you're saying things a lot now. And you are, like, we all got into podcasting nobodies. Like, we were nobodies. And we just started it because we wanted to hear ourselves talk. We wanted someone to listen. And I know that one of my buddies has a really big podcast, and everything he says is now newsworthy. And you are like him, where all of a sudden, like, nonstop, you're in my news feed. And I was like, oh, that could get cumbersome for Joe. That might be where you got to all of a sudden think of, like you said, I can't dance, but now when it comes to talking, I can't talk about what was the one I read this morning was the Randy Moss call. They're like, would you take that back? And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like 04. I can't even tell you how many minutes I've done on live national television. And it's like, it's almost, it's like checking the boxes whenever I do an interview. It's, why do you think you do a great job, but why do you think people hate you? Okay, check. Randy Moss, would you take that back? Check. You got to go over the same shit every time. And I'm answering for stuff that I said in 04. And you're right. I mean, the other thing I said recently was about Fox putting in, like an ambient crowd noise under the broadcast, which I think, first of all, that's not cutting edge. Secondly, we're doing an entertainment show. And finally, if you do a game and it's just flat under it, that's just terrible. So it's not really that groundbreaking. And I've said it for the last month. I just said it on HBO in April. And then I said it on Andy Cohen's radio show, and it got picked up, and then it becomes a thing. It's like, why is it a thing today? It wasn't a thing a month ago, but whatever. It just depends on if it hits.
Like all this. I like it all because it just drives more people to our podcast. So the more he can be in the news, and the more shit that can get picked up, the better it is for daddy issues.
But I see that with Aikman. Aikman is a guy who's very protective of his career, his name, his brand, if you will. And if he weighs in on the Tom Brady Deflategate thing, which we saw, or he says Donovan McNabb is inaccurate on short passes, everybody else can say the same stuff. But when it comes from him, it goes on the crawl underneath the highlights on ESPN. Fox's Troy Aikman says, or Hall of Famer Troy Aikman says. And so, that it makes you a little leery, because if you say something that becomes one of those headline things, then you're answering for it for the next month and a half. It's like, I don't even want to answer. It's not that big of a deal. I don't want to answer for it for the next month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think they should put crowd noise in the games, personally.
Well, wait till we have games and they don't do it. It's going to be like, what am I watching?
Well, it's like the UFC fights,
Oh, yeah. Uncomfortable.
Weird.
Watching your parents fuck. It's just
That's like, true.
Only with less blood.
Yeah, it's fucking, I texted Joe. I go, it's so weird. Joe Rogan, and I was like, it's so weird to hear you interview someone after a fight and hear them talk, but no cheers out. It's like really weird. I think they should let corporate sponsors buy quarters of the football games and allow them to be the ones that put the cheers and the boos in.
Yes.
I mean, let's make some money. I think there's an opportunity. I do not want to hear a quiet football game.
It's off-putting, and I still think, and then this is what really pissed me off. I said, and I know Fox is working on having like a look of a crowd, whatever the phrase is, like almost animated crowd,
digital.
Like a digitally enhanced crowd. But I said they're working on it. And then the next day, the headline is Joe Buck says Fox will put in audio. And I do think they will. So, yep, I agree. I'm good with that. And will put in, people in the stands. And I've talked to everybody at Fox, and they were fine with me saying that stuff because they want to be ahead of it. But if it doesn't look right, they're not going to do it. But we're in uncharted waters. I mean, nobody knows what this is all going to look like when it comes back. But for people at home, they need to have it be somewhat of what they're used to seeing. Otherwise, it's going to be, if I see an empty stadium, I'm like, next, it's almost like a trigger, like it's not important.
Well, I think we were talking about this before, Joe and I. I was like, they should get creative with it. Fuck it, be progressive. Like put in like an old school laugh track or something, or like you can just do whatever sound effects that you want. Right. A big gong, like gong, when there's like a big pass or something like that.
Put in fake chants. Put in, make it like a soccer crowd in Europe or whatever it is. But they need to try whatever they can think of and see if it makes it more fun. It's also a great opportunity to really push coverage into areas that it's never been, like the way they did the XFL, where you're actually listening to the coordinator quarterback conversation in the headset, or you're hearing what they're talking about in the officials booth when they're if they're about to overrule a call on the field. That stuff's all really fascinating stuff. I don't know if they'll do it, but you have to exhaust all opportunities, and maybe it pushes the overall coverage into areas that have never been seen before.
Do you think they're going to let anyone go to the game and socially distance, like throw some high price tickets out there?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. And again, we're looking at these rules. I don't know if you bothered to read them. And I read about 2/3 of them in baseball with the checklist of things that they're not allowed to do, including showering after the game and spitting on the field and high-fiving.
Real quick, way to find the gay guy on the team. Woman on him out. That does it.
It's amazing. Like they're going to be moving around. Like, is it okay? They're going to have socially distanced dugouts. They're going to, it's a lot. I mean, there are a lot of hoops to jump through. So I think fans are down the list. I mean, like they want to do it beyond belief to get fans in there. But if they can't do it safely, they're just not going to do it.
Yeah, that is crazy. I was talking about doing a show, and they were like, yeah. And I was super excited. And then they're like, hey, I think you're going to go into quarantine for 14 days before you do it. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah. Well, they're going to put you in a house. And then in order for insurance purposes, they're going to have to quarantine you for 14 days. And all of a sudden it became like, I don't know if I can go to some fucking city that I don't live in and sit in some rental house for like half a month. So it is crazy. Like just the when you do the math of, I used to do an adventure show. And one of the things that used to give me solace at night was that dude who thought of all the issues that could have happened. Like whenever you jumped off the stratosphere, there was one guy that they hired to do all the math and go, what about this? What about wind change? Yeah. And there's a guy working at the NFL going, I know we want to have football, but what about ... And you go, Jesus, man.
Yeah. And
what were you going to, what show? I mean, was this a show that was out of town that they're going to quarantine you in a rental for?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do television and, productions are starting back up,
Are they? I mean, we're dealing with that right now because I have a pilot for CBS I was supposed to do. Now we're on hold and we're just waiting to sort of shoot the pilot.
Tyler Perry just opened up, said he's going to start production in the studios. So like the places that are going.
Is that real?
Yeah,
Is that real? No, you got Medea's coming back.
He is
the rest of the world has to wait.
Studio. He owns the whole studio.
No, I know. I'm just saying, Oliver. Have your agent send your headshot in to be.
I'm like Bert. I'm like Bert. I don't want to go to Atlanta.
Medea comes out of quarantine.
I am this fucking close to being one of those people that lose it and just go to bars and do everything and just like there is a sensibility of like. Do you remember at the end, me and my youngest daughter, horrible parenting choice, watched Platoon the other night at midnight.
I think that's great parenting.
Great parenting. I do that all the time.
Unless she's like 4.
She's 13.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's easy. Oh, dude.
Yeah. There was a point where Charlie Sheen just is like, fuck it. And he just pops out of the foxhole and just starts going and killing everyone. And that is the mentality that's happening in America where they're like, I'm done being in the foxhole. Like, I'm out. And like Wisconsin, they're going to bars. Florida's opened up. Atlanta's opened up. It's kind of like I had to go to Rite Aid today to get blood pressure medicine, and I'm just at my wit's end with this fucking quarantine.
Yeah, no, I know, man. I just went camping. I went to this place called El Capitan, where it's like sort of a glamping camping site, and it was every other cabin, was available to sort of use. That's what they booked. And it was amazing because you felt some sort of normalcy. The beach was open. You just got to be mindful about what you're doing. There is a way. There's definitely a way to get back to it. But Wisconsin is watching the bar scene is amazing. It's crazy. You never thought that watching someone drink a beer would be entertaining. You're like, holy shit, look at how close he is to that fucking guy.
Yeah. And we have a little community in this area that opened up earlier. Was open on Cinco de Mayo, and a guy that I know that owns a bar out there was like, I swear to you, there was no difference in Cinco de Mayo 2020 to Cinco de Mayo 2019. I'm like, what? How is that? Really? Like people don't, so you're just going to chuck it all and go run. You've been sitting on your ass for the last 2 months and we're all going to go just slam back together in a bar. I mean, that to me seems really, I don't know. It's dangerous for one, but it's irresponsible, I think, for the greater good. At least in my mind, I don't know.
I agree. I mean, I haven't announced it yet, but I'm going to try to do a tour at drive-in movie theaters to do stand-up. But it's not. I'm like, I'm stir crazy. I have all these fucking jokes that I'm writing down, and I feel like and it's almost like, and you feel like things are getting away from you. You're like, I can only imagine. And it goes back to I'm stuck on this for me a little bit, but I can only imagine what it must be like to have started a dog grooming business and now losing your dog grooming business because of these things. There's a hat company in Nashville that I buy hats at whenever I perform in Nashville. And the woman was the very first woman that goes, this is not happening. I don't care if I die. I'm not losing this hat business. Mm-hmm. She's like, we'll be open through the entire quarantine.
Well, I mean, that's the other side of it. So the other side of it is if I own the bar, I'd be like, okay, people are back in here. Or if I had the hat company or the dog grooming business, or I have a buddy that just opened a gym literally leverage to the hilt, opened a gym 2 weeks before quarantine, the whole thing shut down. And it's like the guy's just sitting on this fire of money. And I feel terrible for him. So if it's easy for me to come down on how everybody should act when I'm sitting where I sit. So if I was scrambling for the next rent check or whatever it is, I don't know. It's hard to make people do stuff that's just going to put them down a financial drain.
Yeah. Oliver, I have a weird question. You said earlier you were talking about you get sharp about who's your friends for what reasons. Mm-hmm. Like you had two famous parents. Your mom was undeniably a sex symbol, like one of the most beautiful women of my growing up, mm-hmm. and your sister's hot. Like, mm-hmm. how sharp did you have to be? We were like, are you here for my sister, my dad, or my mom, or me? What do you mean?
No, it's true. I had to wade through 3 people to get to myself, But yeah, no, you're right, dude. I mean, I actually, you just brought up this memory in my head, and this is about Kurt. I played hockey for 8 years, and I was on a team, and one of my kid, I forget his name, but he was just a dick all the time. And we were at practice one early morning, and we're standing there with our helmets off, just sort of waiting to do some sort of skating drill. And out of nowhere, he goes, "Hey, does Kurt Russell suck your dick?" Out of nowhere. And I was like, "What the fuck?" And I just hauled off on him, out of nowhere. I'm like, this is, so crazy shit. And then at camp, I had a moment where I'm friends with these girls, and we were like, it was this, and it was fun, and it was. I was only 12, but we would hook up, and they didn't know who my parents were, so I thought, and then they found out who my mom, and my dad was, and then on the bus ride home, I'm like, you only like me because of who my parents are, and then they start crying because it's so untrue. I missed the mark on that one, so I was always trying to feel it out. It was just an insecurity of mine that no one liked me for me. And it was more about sort of where I came from, But as far as my mom and stuff goes, and my sister's tough. She would always be able to take care of herself, And I didn't really have many inappropriate moments when it came to that. If someone said my mom was hot or I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, she is. They are. I mean, obviously, don't get graphic about what you potentially want to do to my mother,
Yeah.
But hey, I can appreciate the fact that she's a sex symbol. But I will say though that in Overboard, there's a shot and her ass. She's in a G-string and her ass is showing. She did a movie called Wildcats where her tits are showing in a bathtub. And I was not necessarily a fan of that. I did not like that stuff. I can tell you that.
Who was your hot mom? Who is the mom that you looked at? You were like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Your house.
Yeah. Oh God. Who this mom.
I remember feeling let down because I was like, my mom's not hot at all. My mom just looked like a mom. And then you go to some kids' houses and you'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah. There was this kid, Victor Ehrenberg, and he lived down my street. His mom was just hot, just sexy. And then it turned out that his dad turned out to be gay.
Really?
Left his mom and then started a whole relationship with a dude. So
wow. I remember hearing about gay dads when I was in high school and being like, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. I wish that was still a thing where people could understand that we didn't all live in a open society the way we do today. Sometimes I'll say things like that where I'll go, I mean, I couldn't wrap my head around this girl's dad came out of the closet and I was like, hold on. Wait, hold on. But he's been with a woman. I couldn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were major TV stars that were gay, and it was it was. I don't know if it was talked about or if people just couldn't understand that. I don't know. I'm thankfully we live in a society now where my daughters. I've got 23 and 20-year-old daughters. I've got 2-year-old twin boys. I think the 23 and 20-year-old daughters caught some of the end of that, maybe, but I think they all kind of just accept whatever anybody's doing, which thank God.
No, I totally agree, and I'm socially progressive. I don't give a shit who you love or what you do at all. I welcome it all. That does not bother me. You can have, adopt kids, men with kids. I love it. If there's love in your family, if there's love is love. Love trumps it all, right? But I will say this: I think that there needs to be a grace period in a sense. We need to we need to sort of get used to it. We're evolving, if someone, sees someone who's transgender and maybe stares too long, that's not a bad thing necessarily. There's an adjustment period that has to happen, I mean, you can't just snap your fingers and everything is just totally normal and it's exactly the way it has been for 40 years, 50, 100 years. There are incremental steps like of adjustment to sort of the new sort of progressive situation that is happening socially,
Yeah, my dad was very very progressive when you didn't need to be progressive. Like I couldn't say the word faggot in my house. My dad would light up. He'd be like, "What? Are you gay? If you're gay, just come out and say you're gay." Like, that's only homophobic people use that word. And so if you're homophobic, that means that you're probably gay, and I'll still love you. And I'd be like, "Dad." So like he was. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I look back at my dad sometimes and go, like, I never really. This is back to daddy issues, but like, to this day, I kind of have to call my dad if I'm going to order a steak. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of want to go, hey, they got dry aged and they got wet aged. Which one should I get? He's like, oh, I don't know, buddy. Like, and it's almost like let's get into this. Hold on 1 second.
That's so great. And I think back on my dad. The best thing that my dad did along those lines was just stay in the game. And as a 75-year-old man was around 21-year-old athletes and was sitting he had carte blanche inside the Cardinals locker room clubhouse, and he could go anywhere in it. He sat back in the players lounge. They bullshitted with him. He bullshitted with them. It kept him young. He was experiencing rap music as a 75-year-old man and just, didn't even probably enter into his head. He was tolerating it and talking to guys. And I think that was the best thing. He was just kind of come one, come all. He was the least
our kids
restrictive
are around
guy.
the same age, Bert. I mean, I've got a 12-year-old and 10, but I always fancied myself as like the cool dad, and I'll never sort of be out of touch. But it's sort of slowly happening now where they're saying things to me and using certain lingos that I'm like, what the fuck are they saying? Like, what are they talking about here? And they're coming to me like, what, you don't know so-and-so, or you don't know such and such? I'm like, I have no idea, man, what you are even talking about. And I'm slowly losing touch with some of this 12, 13-year-old shit that's going on.
I learned that on the graduation broadcast, that people are popping up. I'm like, who the hell's that? Like they're giving performances, and I'm like, is it over? Am I done? I'm 51. Am I the old guy that doesn't? Who is that, honey? With the singing and the gyrations and the guitar and it's like what's happened to me? I don't know who anybody is now. All of a sudden, it's like the day you wake up and you can't read something in front of your face. It's like it happens overnight. All of a sudden, you go, "Oh, that's what bifocals are for." I had no idea.
TikTok generation. That's what's happening.
Oh, yeah. I did, when everyone was getting outraged over the Gal Gadot video. Yeah. I didn't even know at first. I didn't know that was Gal Gadot. I didn't recognize her without her Wonder Woman costume on. So like, and then I didn't know. The only person I recognized right away was Kristen Wiig. I love Kristen Wiig. I think she might be. By the way, I have a bunch of unpopular thoughts, and one of them is women on SNL have always been funnier than men across the board. You can't say that out loud to like bros, because everyone's like, dude, Farley. And I'm like, yeah, I think Kristen Wiig is 100 times funnier than Chris Farley on fucking SNL.
Think about all the things they had to get over, all the hurdles they had to get over to be considered funny enough to be on SNL. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking talented, for him. She could do anything. Kate McKinnon.
By the way, Kate McKinnon is so fucking good.
There's Kate McKinnon, and there's like everybody else, right?
Yeah. Kate McKinnon is one of the most talented people. I mean, it's crazy how great she is. God, she's good.
Dude, I don't even, like, my daughters and I will watch. Have you seen Kate McKinnon's getting abducted by aliens sketch?
Oh my God.
I mean,
I've seen two of them, and obviously the other actors, the other performers can't hold it together for good reason. But that's what my daughter wants to do. That's what my 23-year-old daughter wants to do. She wants to act. She wants to do comedy. She can sing. but those are her. Kristen Wiig and Kate McKinnon are the people she looks up to more than me, probably. So
they're talented across the board. Like, they can do sketch, but they're also really great actors. They can pretty much do it all.
So I want to have a parenting question, Joe. What was because you have older children than me and Oliver. What's the deal? How do you deal with if let's hypothetically say my child's curious about drugs and alcohol and she's 15. And let's hypothetically say you party a lot with drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
Hypothetically.
Right. So let's say I'm you.
Yeah, let's say you're me and then your kid's my kid, Georgia. So what are you supposed to do?
I don't know. I look back and I wonder how I grew up the way I grew up, because I drank some. Oliver and I have talked about this literally 1,000 times. I saw drugs around me because I went to a little rich prep school, and I saw Coke. I saw ecstasy before it had a name. I saw shrooms. I saw acid.
It was amazing back then when it didn't have a name.
Oh, yeah. Well, because it was cut up with everything. That's why it was heroin, speed.
But I saw other kids reacting to this stuff, and it scared the shit out of me, because I saw friends that all of a sudden were totally different. I'm not talking about weed, and yet I grew up not smoking weed either, but I'm talking about Coke and acid and ecstasy and just girls freaking out at a prom. And I love to be a voyeur and watch it, but it's a long form answer saying, I don't know what was put into me. I think I was so scared of being the one arrested or being the one getting DWI'd because of my dad, and knowing that in my small town it would be Jack Buck's son, Joe, and 3 others, that I just was so scared of getting in trouble that I was really a stiff kid. And I've kind of carried that forward. And I think my daughters have followed suit. Now they do stuff. I kind of leave them on their own now that they're over 20, but I think whatever you put in, they have. I don't believe the only thing they do or have done, and I think they've weaned themselves off of, is the Juul, which it scares the shit out of me, because nobody knows what the long-term effects are because it's such new technology or whatever. So who knows what they're putting into their lungs? Or
we need to get those girls into some cannabis. It's important for them.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
If they're actors and they want to be creative, it's going to open up a whole new thing.
Oh, okay. Why don't you have a camp, and I'll send them out to your camp, and you can teach them, the do's and don'ts. I don't know the answer. I just stayed away from it as a kid, and my kids, for the most part, stayed away from it, but they did drink. Drinking was one thing that, for maybe because I'm old, that I was like, whatever. But the drug thing was always, even weed, I was always so weird about. So I don't know. I don't have an answer. They just,
Oliver,
you kind of steered away.
You probably, I think everyone would assume you have very I think, let me just say, I would assume you would have very liberal parents who were like, listen, if you're going to try weed, you should try it with us. Mm-hmm. What were your parents' views on drugs and alcohol?
Well, when I came home from college, freshman year or whatever, or even when I was in high school, we would drink in the house. I'm sure they knew. It wasn't like, oh, let's open a beer with Kurt and Mom, and have a beer together necessarily. That was sort of once I got back from college, my freshman year, and we were able to have some beers together, But, they were very liberal when it came to that stuff. They let me sort of figure it out on my own, which I did, but I was the opposite of Joe, man. I was doing some crazy, crazy stuff, not drugs. Drugs for me was, I was not really into drugs. I smoked my weed, I took my ecstasy, but I wasn't into Coke and all that. I had some crazy, crazy experiences as a 16-year-old boy that I'm actually writing a movie about, because it was insane. I dated a Heidi Fleiss girl without knowing it for a minute. And for 9 months, she was 10 years older than me, and we were in Hollywood, and I was living this double life of, like the West Side life with my parents, and then the East Side sort of LA life with this woman of the evening. I mean, crazy at 16 years old, so I was in a whole different arena when it came to that. But I grew weed when I was a kid, in high school. And so it was, they were never in my face about it. It was never like, you can't do this or you shouldn't do that. They let me make my own mistakes, and I was parented interesting. It was an interesting way of doing it. And I sort of follow suit with my kids. Like, I got arrested for paintballing on Halloween, paintballing people on Halloween, like shooting out of my car,
I remember that. Yeah.
People thought it was like a real weapon. So the police came, guns drawn, like, get your fucking hands up. And we got put in the squad car. We got called. We went to the station, and so we got Kurt, or so they say, okay, so we got to call your parents. And let's start with you. And they pointed to me and like, what's your dad's name? And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I was like, Kurt Russell. And they're like, what, shut up, kids. They're like, what's your dad's name?
Snake Plissken.
This isn't time to fuck around. And I said, Kurt Russell. And they were like, what? And then they started fighting over who was going to make the phone call. One guy was like, I arrested him. I was the one who arrested him. The other guy was like, he was in my squad car, blah, blah, blah. They call Kurt. All the dads come down to the station, and I didn't get punished. This is my point, because it's benefit of the doubt shit. You know what you did wrong. I'm going to give you this. If you don't know what you did wrong, you're a complete idiot, and you might as well not live in this house. When I got in trouble, it was the small things. It was being arrogant. It was taking shit for granted. It was being spoiled. It was being a dick. Things that I wasn't even noticing that I was doing. That's when I got in trouble. The bigger things, I was graffitiing and shit and doing stupid things. And it was like, I'm not going to punish you. You're an asshole. You're an idiot. You know what you did wrong. That's sort of how it worked with my parents. Especially.
God, I haven't lived. I just haven't lived. I don't have anything I could even.
I was rebellious. I think that because I grew up privileged in the way that I did, I felt like I wanted to sort of be a part of something different. You know what I mean? I think that's why I was in Hollywood with this weird, high class escort, and I was, graffitiing the fucking Palisades, which is the richest neighborhood in Los Angeles. I mean, and I was growing weed and trying to sell weed for what? I didn't need it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was searching for something. I wanted something different, I guess,
Yeah, it's gotta be like, you see a lot of kids of celebrities, and you go like one my heart throbs for. I feel so bad for this kid is Chet Hanks.
Dude, it's amazing. I knew you were going to say that.
I love that kid, man. I love him because he is so authentically Chet Hanks. He's not pretending to be anyone other than who the fuck he is, and people think he's trying to be other people. No, he's just Chet. And you go, it's got to be tough. It's just got to be tough to try to find a voice. Like, I mean, I didn't have to. My thing was, your dad tries to make you into the man he wants you to be, humble and keep your head low, put in hard work. That's the kind of guy we're going to be. And I was just naturally a kid who wanted to be in front of everyone. I wanted to be loud. I said stupid shit. I did stupid shit. So when I decided I wanted to be whatever I wanted to be a stand-up. And by the way, it came out of, I was written up in Rolling Stone magazine. So it's like a 6.5-page article my dad sees and is like, what the fuck? It's almost like I've been leading a double life the way when you get shot. God, I remember shooting people with paintball guns. Now you look at that and you're like, how the fuck did I not get killed?
Dude, I don't know. There's so many times where I'm like, I can't believe that was even me. I would never do that. Now, that's not even a piece of who I am. I'd be like, are you crazy? What the fuck was wrong with you? I mean, nuts, dude. I can't believe I was feeling happy.
But how are you going to be, Ollie, when your three come to you or don't come to you and dive into the whole weed world that you're such a proponent of?
Look, obviously I'm not going to smoke a joint with my kid who's 12 years old. I mean, but I would rather smoke a joint with him at 15 or 16 than have a whiskey, honestly. You know, I mean,
now here's this is exact conversation we got into last night. I said to both my girls, I would much, much, much rather you smoke marijuana than drink. Drinking, you do not know how much to have, and you can die. And I don't want to lose you. And that's it. That's number one. And then my youngest daughter's like, I can't die from weed. And I was like, no, you got to smoke a lot of it. I go, you can lose your fucking mind. Like I go, that's my other thing with marijuana. I don't want you to do it until your brain's fully developed.
Yes.
And those are my rules. And then my daughter, Georgia, and I don't know if I should even be talking about this, but said, I'm curious about marijuana. Like I have friends that are smoking it and I'm curious. I want to try it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I was almost like,
that's so great. That's so great. That right there.
Yeah, dude, totally.
That means you're doing stuff right. I mean, the fact that she would open up and say that to you instead of be like, oh, Dad, and then just slump off to her room. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, you just won right there. That's great. I mean,
yeah, but I don't, but now
how old is she?
15.
Yeah, she's getting to that spot. You know,
all her friends. This is one of the inventions I want to make. Is I want to make a like a toilet drug testing kit for kids, so you can put it in your kid's toilet. They piss, and then it turns green, and that means they've been smoking marijuana.
So really, do the wives' tale or the urban legend thing of peeing in a pool, turning everything purple, but it's real, and now you know what your kid's been doing.
Great idea. Love it.
And while we're at inventions, I also want to invent a pillow that has speakers in it, so I can listen to podcasts while I sleep and not wake my wife up. Now, here's my point: is that
get in business with the My Pillow guy. He's everywhere.
So the only thing we're letting our daughters do, and really just my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter is not, is go ride bikes with their friends, socially distance, wear masks. You can go ride bikes with your friends. And she's 15. They're doing it every weekend, like beginning of the day till the end of the day. And she came home the other night and was really goofy and giggly. And I just was like, I know what I'd be doing at 15. And I was like, God damn it. I said to my wife, I go, if these kids are eating edibles and riding bikes, like I can't have that. I got really like protective.
Yeah.
And then in a weird like parallel universe, I thought I would love to eat an edible and go on a bike ride, like with my friends, like and be 15 and be trying marijuana for the first time and be like, fuck yeah, like this is awesome. Do it early in the morning, enjoy your day, and then come home sober and be like, I'm going to bed, Dad. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, so what am I protecting her from? Like I'm trying to, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's just the out of control nature. I mean, even when you're high, you're not in your right body. I mean, you're still high, you're stoned. You know, yes, you cannot die from marijuana. You can smoke a fucking 8 in like this. You will not die. You might pass out. But you can die if you cross the street and you're not paying attention because you're stoned, fucked up, you know, for sure. And especially if you're eating edibles, you know, who knows? You got to know how much to take because you can have a full-on sort of panic attack.
I just had that conversation with them last night about threshold limits and like 2.5 milligrams is really where you want to start, and it'd never be and I wasn't saying like giving, I was just putting out information for her in life, not saying she was allowed to do it, but going, listen, I had a buddy, one of my buddies is a comedian, Tom Segura, and one of our other buddies told him they gave him 10 milligrams and then turned out he gave him 100. And what? Yeah, and he's, I don't know if he's talked about it or not, but one of our buddies, Joey Diaz, gave him 100, and then they had to fly in a private jet from Miami to LA, and Tom said he was losing his mind. Like he goes, it wasn't enjoyable, it wasn't fun, like I was speaking in tongues, and when it happened, this is, once again, I don't know if Tom's talked about this, but fuck it. When it happened, I had been drugged by my friend. One of our friends drugged me at my house one time, and so it was very public. Everyone knew about it, and I had a lot of feelings about it. and so when this happened,
you of some kind, like he drugged you, and you mean like roofied you?
No, he. By the way, everyone listening to this has heard this story, but we did a podcast, and he slipped me Molly, and so. We were doing a podcast, and then I had to get on a plane that night and fly to start my tour. And my kids were here, and my wife fucking hates this guy now. And And so, but right after it, I had feelings about it. I had emotions, and I talked to Tom extensively about all my feelings. Then Tom gets drugged, and he calls me, and my kids are hearing about Tom getting drugged and Tom's feelings and Tom's emotions. And so I explained to them yesterday, when Tom got drugged, it was 100 milligrams. And they were like, is that a lot? I'm like, oh my God, this is why I don't want you using drugs. Like, yeah, it's a lot. Like, good God. Yeah. And they're like, now my dad's eating marijuana. And they're like, what's Papa take? And I was like, fucking 10 milligrams. And so all of a sudden it's the conversations that you're like, I don't want to fucking have any of these.
Yeah, that's why I think that's why I don't like being around Oliver, because I'm scared to death he's going to do this to me. To go, see, you didn't die. See, you had fun. See, you had, and we talked about it last week, you and I. But
I know.
Next time we go to Chicago, you're going to do something.
I would never do that to you. I would never do that to you. But
that seems like a real violation of a friendship.
It is. I would agree with that. I would never do that to you. But I will say this. I think it's smart that you are talking to your girls tonight. They do have the question about how many milligrams is too much. That's for sure something they should know, because if they do get into a situation where they are riding their bikes and one of the girlfriends breaks out a 10 milligram gummy, it's like, oh, Dad said 2.5. And if you're going to do it, start at 2.5. You know what I mean? So it's a good conversation to have. And 15, I think, is the right age for that, especially with the legalization and how available it is.
I told him last night, I was like, I never take drugs from a boy. And then my youngest goes, because they're just trying to rape us, right? And I was like, bingo, baby. You got it. That's all you need to know.
You're doing a hell of a job, Bert. Just keep going. Don't stay the course.
I'll get you guys out of here. I don't want to keep you too long, but I'm curious, because Joe, I fantasize sometimes. I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. I made a comment to Bill Burr one time about how nice it must be to be an old dad, and he was like, "Wait, what?" And I said, "You get to do all the good things. Like when I was a young dad, and I just fucked up my kids. Like we didn't teach them French or do any of the cool shit. Like we were just struggling to make money." And Bill got really pissed, and he was like, "I'm not a fucking old dad." And he was like, "I'm just a good dad. I care." And by the way, he's right. But I fantasize sometimes about my second family and doing it right. Like, how are you the second go around? Do you notice that you're like, one of the things I didn't get to do with my first kids was like, do this, ... And now you're going like, I'm definitely like more patient. I'm going to read. Like I never read to my fucking kids. It used to drive me fucking nuts, because all I could do as I sat and read is go, I should be writing a joke or writing a script. Like we don't have any money. Like we're broke. Like what the fuck? Like you read your own fucking book. I'm going to try to make a career over here.
Oh my God. But at least they're asking you questions that they should be asking you. I look back, it's funny because as you said that, my 23, almost 24-year-old just walked into the hallway over there. I don't feel like it's any different. I think the difference is who I get to do it with and how we co-parent together is a completely different feel for me. And I'm not bragging on where I come from and that. I'm just saying that my current wife, has the most patience of anybody I know. And I see that on display. And now at 51 and waking up at 6:15 with these boys that are screaming in their cribs and want to get out, I'm fucking worn out. And by the end of the day, my patience is zero. So I think I had way more patience. The beauty of my job, none of us have been 9 to 5 guys, but you were going day after day after day after day. I had seasons of that, but when I was just doing Fox stuff, I was around Monday through Friday, and I was doing carpool drop-off, pickup, homework, all that other stuff. So I was just as involved as a late 20-year-old as I am at 51. And now when they're going to school, I'm going to be in my late 50s, mid to late 50s. I don't know. I hope I have the patience and I have the desire to take my kids camping like Oliver just did. I'd like to think I will.
How old are you when they graduate high school?
Like 67.
Jesus Christ.
Math is not on my side. I just sit around and go, okay, everybody that dies now, I'm like, oh, 86. Okay, if I made it to 86, my kids would be. And then the math starts working out, but I got to make it to 86. And I don't like my chances with the way I'm trending. So I think it's the same experience. I just get to do it with somebody that's got infinitely more patience than I do. And I find myself always being the bad guy, like ripping the crayon or the marker out of their hands right now. Ali and I just talked about this. Well, she's like, now, Blake, don't color on your leg. Okay, there's one. Blake, I said, don't color on your leg. I'm like, they're fucking 2. They don't understand English or reasoning. Take it out of their hand. And then I'm like, here, I'll show you. Rip. I take it out of their hand. Then I'm the asshole. So I'm the no man. She's the everything's fine. And, between the two of us, we even out to like a normal parent.
How old were you when you had kids, Oliver?
I was 30, 29, 30 my first kid.
Oh yeah, that was what I was. I was like 32 maybe.
I always wanted to have kids young though. I mean, even when I was in my 20s, I'm like, I want to have kids young. I want to be like a youngish dad.
Oliver's a great dad. We're different types of dads, but I think our kids know where they sit in our lives. And if you, Bert, are able to have that conversation with your kids, that's a real clue that you're doing something right, that they have an open dialogue with you. That's all I ever wanted. And that's what I have with my girls who are now in their early 20s. And now they're both dating men that are, they're really serious with these guys. And I think the next step is probably the marriage step. If something doesn't go haywire. And, I feel like they're with good men, and that's, men that really treat them right and treat them like I would want them to be treated. And I think in some ways treat them like I did treat them. So it's really gratifying to get to the back end of this thing and see that they're picking partners that have the right priorities and have the same thoughts about protecting them like I do.
Well, I got to be honest, guys, this has been a blast. I know that like usually I go really long, but I feel like with today's schedule and with 2 people, I feel like, is there anything I haven't asked you guys?
No, this is great, dude.
By the way, if you don't make does Kurt Russell suck your dick a t-shirt, that's the hardest I've laughed in a fucking long time.
I thought Bert was going down when you were telling that story. He was leaned back and like tears were coming out of his eyes.
Shocking to me. And by the way, it was like 5:30 a.m. I mean, I was exhausted to the practice, standing there out of nowhere. It's a fucking kid.
It's funny. I remember my daughter Isla had a friend over, and it was like a cool friend or whatever. And I remember the look in her eyes when the girl mentioned something about my Instagram followers. Mm-hmm. And I watched Isla realize, oh, fuck. Like, I got had. And she just like this. And I was like, both of us got had. Yeah. And I was like, but it's been a fun time talking to you guys. Joe, a long time ago, you were doing a talk show in a taxi cab.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a call, and they said, you're never going to believe this. We got an offer for you to come out. I think you're shooting in New York. You did one with Silverman, maybe?
Yes. We had a pretty good list of guests. It was done for Anheuser-Busch. They were starting like ABTV or something that it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And so they were like, we got this offer from Joe Buck. And by the way, this is I think this is right before you started to pop. Was this before your Fox contract?
Yeah. No, I had been doing Fox, but it was pretty early on. It was a long time ago.
And my agent was like, do you have any idea how fucking amazing this is? And at the time I'm like, oh, wait, who's Joe Buck? And they're like, are you fucking serious? And he goes on the whole thing, right? It's a conference call. And he's like, you are flying to New York to fucking do this. You're getting an opportunity to sit with Joe Buck. And I get off the phone and I'm like, God damn it, man, how the fuck do I not know who Joe Buck is? And another agent calls and he goes, just giving you a heads up. That agent's from St. Louis. Like, he's really.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I'm big in St. Louis.
But it's crazy because from that day on, I've been a fan.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And Oliver was like, and I was psyched to come on here because You know, when you get to come on with somebody as accomplished as you, it's meaningful. So thanks for having us on.
No,
smart question. This is dope. This is really, really fun, actually.
No, I just it was fun catching up on your podcast, and now I got to be honest, I'm going to switch over and start listening to Sibling Rivalry as well.
Yeah,
I just found that.
Where are you? Where do you live? Are you in LA?
Yeah.
I like that little man cavey thing you got going on back there.
Oh, this thing.
We got to do better, Oliver.
This was given to me by the TV show Man Caves. I move it around.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is
amazing, dude.
And so, yeah, this is a little sidebar. I was working for Travel Channel. I was doing my second season of a show called Bert the Conqueror, and they offered this to me. A guy named Adam Richman was Man vs. Food. They couldn't really figure it out, and they were like, "Hey, we'll just give you the man cave we were supposed to give to him and to you." The day this got finished, I got fired from Travel Channel. I did Letterman that night. Yeah. I flew to New York, did Letterman, got fired, came home, and Tony Saragusa goes, "Just so you know, buddy, we pumped $180,000 into that little fucking room." This is including the birth of my children. Yeah. The greatest thing that's ever happened to me is this man.
It looks amazing. I'm jealous. I want one and need one. Talk about 3 kids. I live in a children's frat house. I mean, it's not an adult home. I mean, it's the way we've done it, though. You know, a lot of my friends have adult homes and 3 kids. Their kids they're delegated to a certain spot. Like, no, but I need a space like that.
Yeah, but everybody's stoned over there, so you don't give a shit.
True.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Congratulations on the podcast. And take care.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.